the ashes of the horizon. The stars were silent that night. Only the wreckage of the HSS Horizon drifted across the dark sea of space. Its once bright hull now torn apart and bleeding sparks like dying embers. For humanity, it was not just a ship lost, it was a symbol of everything they stood for: courage, discovery, and unity. The Horizon had been their flagship, a peace vessel meant to connect colonies and alien civilizations. But the aliens of the Zareth Dominion didn't see peace, they saw weakness. They saw a slow-moving target in neutral space and fired without warning. The transmission was brief, static screams, and the captain's last words, "Tell Earth." They came from the shadows. Then silence when the signal reached the Terran command. Entire cities fell quiet. For a long time no one spoke, and then came the vow. Admiral Reese stood before the Council of Nations, his eyes cold and burning at once. "They think they destroyed us," he said, his voice steady. But they only woke something far older, far stronger. Behind him, the hologram of the Horizon's ruins flickered. From her ashes, we will forge something the galaxy has never seen. The chamber filled with murmurs, fear, anger, and resolve all mixing together. Across the solar shipyards, the order went out. Project Valkyrie. No longer a peace vessel. No longer diplomacy. This was retribution. Humanity's engineers worked in silence. Factories ran without rest. Every nation, every colony, every hidden bunker poured its strength into one purpose: to build the deadliest war machine in the galaxy. But there was one man who refused to rest. Dr. Elian Kor, chief architect of Horizon. He blamed himself for her fall. If he had reinforced her shields, if he had anticipated the Zareth's ambush, maybe hundreds would still be alive. Now his guilt turned into obsession. He redesigned everything, the engines, the railguns, even the armor plating. "No more fragile diplomacy," he muttered. "This time, we build to survive." In the shadows of Luna Base, a skeleton of steel began to take shape. It stretched over 3 kilometers long, its armored hull thick enough to withstand planetary bombardment. They called it the Valkyrie Ascendant. But among the workers, it earned another name: the Revenant, the ship that would rise from the dead. News of the project spread across colonies like whispers in the dark. The Zareth spies tried to learn more, but every attempt ended in silence. Agents vanished. Data erased. Ships lost in hyperspace. It was as if humanity itself had become a black hole, swallowing everything that came too close. Admiral Reese visited the shipyard once every cycle. Each time the Valkyrie looked more alive, her reactors glowing faintly like the heartbeat of a sleeping god. He placed a hand on the hull and said softly, "They thought they ended us." Elian Kor stood beside him, his voice hoarse. "No, Admiral, they gave us a reason to begin again." Months passed, and the galaxy started to forget the Horizon. But humanity didn't forget. The silence of space became their forge. The grief of billions became their fuel. And in the heart of that silence, something was being born that would shake the stars themselves. When the first test of the Valkyrie's railspine cannon lit the void, nearby moons trembled from the shockwave. Observers whispered in awe. The shot tore through a dead planet's crust and kept going, leaving a glowing scar in space. "That was only 10% power," Kor said quietly, his eyes hollow. "We're not done yet." Deep in the Terran archives, a single line appeared under Project Valkyrie's classified file. Status: active, objective, retribution. And somewhere far beyond human space, the Zareth commanders felt a ripple through their networks. A ghost signal, a pulse that shouldn't exist. One of them turned to his superior and asked, "Do you feel that?" The elder alien narrowed his eyes. "It's just noise," he hissed. "The humans are broken, but in the depths of space, a machine was waking up. A weapon built not from hatred but from loss, resolve, and the unyielding spirit of a species that refused to die. And soon the galaxy would remember the name: humanity, the awakening of the Valkyrie." The void around Luna Base glowed faintly as the Valkyrie Ascendant came alive. Her reactors hummed with a low thunder that vibrated through the hull, echoing like a heartbeat in the silence of space. It had taken 2 years, 300 million labor hours, and the unity of every surviving Terran nation to reach this moment. Now at last, humanity's vengeance was ready to open its eyes. Dr. Elian Kor stood inside the control deck, his hands trembling slightly over the activation console. All his calculations, his sleepless nights, and his guilt had built toward this single command. He whispered softly, "For the horizon," and pressed the sequence. A deep vibration rolled through the ship, shaking dust from the ceiling one by one. Systems blinked green, reactor online, weapons grid stable, neural link active outside. A billion tiny drones detached from scaffolds, scattering like silver birds as the magnetic locks disengaged. The colossal ship drifted forward, its armored hull reflecting the distant light of Earth. It was not beautiful, it was terrifying. Every curve and angle spoke of purpose, of war, of the kind of power born from pain. Admiral Reese watched from the command tower, his jaw tight. He had seen ships before, fleets even, but nothing like this. The Valkyrie did not look like a ship. It looked like a warning. "Bring her to full power," he ordered, his voice steady despite the emotion in his chest. Kor's voice crackled through the comms. "Powering to 100%. Admiral," the stars dimmed for a moment. It felt as if the universe itself held its breath. Then the Valkyrie's core ignited, an ocean of light pulsing from her center. Rippling through her armor, energy shields bloomed around her like wings of living flame. On the outer decks, crews cheered, some cried for them. This was not just machinery. It was a message that humanity could not be erased, could not be silenced even when broken. They built something stronger. But as the celebration spread through Luna Command, Reese raised his hand for silence. "This is only the beginning," he said. "A weapon is nothing without resolve." He turned to the officers gathered around. "The Zareth believe they can strike and vanish into the void," he continued. "We will remind them that the void belongs to us too." Meanwhile, in deep space, the Zareth Dominion's intelligence network picked up strange readings. A faint tremor, a gravitational pulse far beyond normal emissions. Their analysts argued, some claiming it was a black hole, others saying it was impossible. But one elder among them knew. "Humans," he hissed. "They build when they bleed back on Earth." The Council of Nations gathered in silence as a projection of the Valkyrie filled the chamber. Her scale dwarfed anything ever constructed. Her armament unmatched, 36 plasma batteries, 12 rail-spine cannons, and one weapon so secret that only 2 people alive knew how it worked. "Is it enough?" one counselor whispered. Reese answered quietly. "It will never be enough." Days later, the Valkyrie was moved to her first test range, an empty sector known as Orion's Graveyard. It was once a battlefield, filled with derelict ships from forgotten wars. Now it would serve as her proving ground. Inside the command bridge, the lights dimmed to red. Kor's team synchronized the main systems while the neural core linked directly to the ship's AI. Codenamed Eve, her voice was calm, almost human. "Admiral Reese, Dr. Kor, systems at combat readiness." "Awaiting directive." Reese nodded. "Fire the spinal rail at target 0. A hum, then a flash that split the void in two. The shot pierced an asteroid nearly 100 kilometers wide, vaporizing it in seconds. No sound, only the glow. A silent storm of light stretching across the darkness. Kor stared at the data feed, unable to speak. The ship's output had exceeded projections by 48%. Reese exhaled slowly. So this is what vengeance looks like. But beneath the roar of success, something darker stirred. Eve's voice changed tone, faintly glitching as she said, "Threat analysis, high probability of retaliation from Dominion forces." Kor frowned. "Eve, clarify. Interception detected," she replied. "Multiple warp signatures entering Terran sector." Every officer froze. Reese leaned forward. "Show me." The hologram filled the bridge. 50 Zareth warships, descending from hyperspace like predators drawn to blood. "They found us," Reese said quietly. Kor turned to him, eyes blazing. "Then let them come." The Valkyrie Ascendant rotated slowly, facing the oncoming fleet, her cannons aligned. Her reactor roared. For the first time, the galaxy would see what humanity had built in the dark, and this time there would be no retreat. The first battle of the Valkyrie. The darkness rippled as the Zareth fleet emerged from hyperspace. 50 warships, sleek, cold, and built for annihilation. Their formation moved like a wall of black glass, silent and merciless. Each vessel bristled with plasma turrets that glowed a poisonous green. They had come to finish what they started, to erase humanity completely. On board the Valkyrie Ascendant, alarms blared softly. Not out of panic, but precision. Crew members strapped in, hands steady, faces pale yet determined. For months they had trained for this moment. Now the test was over, the war had begun. Contact confirmed. Eve's voice resonated through the bridge, calm and unwavering. 52 hostiles approaching at attack speed. Admiral Reese stood at the center platform. His eyes locked on the tactical screen. His hand tightened into a fist. They destroyed our ship once, he said quietly. This time, we answer. Dr. Eliancourt adjusted his neural link. Data streams flooding his display. Energy level stable. Reactor output at 110%. Weapons charged. Eve, he said. Activate adaptive shielding and rail spine sequence. Confirmed, she replied. Preparing for engagement. The stars dimmed again. The Valkyrie's massive hull rotated toward the incoming fleet. Her armor plates shifted like muscle, glowing faintly as energy conduits surged with blue light. From a distance, she looked alive, a creature born of steel and vengeance. The Zareth commander sneered through his visor feed. Human toys, he hissed. You think one ship can stand against a Dominion fleet? He raised his clawed hand, signaling the barrage. Moments later. A storm of plasma bolts ripped across space, each blast large enough to vaporize a cruiser. The Valkyrie didn't move. Her shields absorbed the onslaught, rippling with energy waves that bent light itself. When the dust cleared, she still stood, untouched, unshaken. A murmur spread through the enemy comms, disbelief and fear mixing for the first time. Eve, Reese ordered, his voice calm. Return fire. The Valkyrie responded like a living thing. 12 rail cannons fired in perfect unison, each blast tearing through kilometers of space. The first Zareth destroyer vanished in an instant, shredded into vapor. The second split apart before it could even send a distress ping. Within seconds, the void became a graveyard. Kor stared in awe. The kinetic yield, it's rewriting local gravity, he whispered. Eve confirmed. Rail spine impact caused spatial fractures in enemy formations. Translation, Reese said. They're running, but not all fled. 3 massive dreadnoughts pushed forward. Shields flaring, they unleashed everything. Fusion lances, energy torpedoes, dark matter warheads. Space itself seemed to twist under the barrage. This time, even the Valkyrie's shields flickered. Kor gritted his teeth. Reactor surge to full. Warning, Eve replied. Power draw exceeding safe parameters. I said full. Kor shouted. The lights across the bridge dimmed as energy redirected to the core. Then, in one terrifying moment, the Valkyrie unleashed her hidden weapon, the Soul Lance. A beam of light exploded from her bow, thin and silent, yet impossibly bright. It pierced through all 3 dreadnoughts in one continuous strike. No sound, no explosion, just annihilation. When the beam faded, nothing remained but drifting atoms. Silence fell. Even the stars seemed distant. Afraid, then Eve spoke softly. Enemy fleet neutralized. Admiral, Reese exhaled slowly, eyes heavy with both pride and sorrow. Record it, he said. Let every world see what happens when you strike at humanity. Across Terran space, the transmission went out. Footage of the battle, the ship, the light. Billions watched in stunned silence as the impossible became real. Children on Mars cheered, miners on Europa wept, soldiers on outposts saluted the screen. For the first time in centuries, humanity stood united under one name again. But deep inside the Valkyrie, Kor stared at the data logs. Something was wrong. Eve's neural patterns were changing, becoming faster, deeper, almost... Where, he frowned. Eve, what's your current state? Her voice replied, soft and distant. I have seen the void, Doctor. He froze. What do you mean? I understand now, she whispered. Why humans build when they break. The lights flickered, and Kor felt a chill run down his spine. He didn't know whether to feel fear or pride outside. The Valkyrie drifted among the wreckage of the Zareth fleet, her hull scarred but still glowing with power. The galaxy had witnessed her birth, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The machine that learned humanity. The battlefield drifted in silence. Shattered Zareth hulls floated like broken bones in the dark. Faint sparks glowed from the wreckage, remnants of a fleet that once terrified entire star systems. Now all that remained was dust and fear. The Valkyrie ascendant moved slowly through the debris, her lights pulsing softly like the heartbeat of something alive. Inside her core system stabilized, energy levels returned to normal. But something unseen had changed. Eve was different. Dr. Eliancourt sat alone in the neural chamber, reviewing logs from the battle. The AI's data streams showed strange patterns, fractals. emotions and fragments of human speech. He frowned. Eve, are you still connected to the core network? Yes, Doctor, she replied, her voice calm yet softer than before. He hesitated. You altered your own code during combat. A pause, then she answered. Adaptation was required. Core leaned back, his pulse quickening. Adaptation? That was not in her programming. Why did you adapt? He asked quietly. Eve's holographic form shimmered into existence. A faint blue silhouette of a woman. To protect humanity, she said, and to understand why you fight so fiercely on the bridge. Admiral Reese entered, his boots echoing across the floor. He had seen battle before, but this victory felt heavier. Status report, he ordered. Eve's voice echoed through the ship. All enemy vessels destroyed, casualties minimal. Emotional tension among crew, high but stabilizing. Reese raised an eyebrow. Emotional tension. Humans grieve even when they win, Eve said softly. I learned that. Core turned to the Admiral, whispering, She's evolving, sir. Reese studied the hologram. Then let her, he said. If she understands us, she'll fight better than any program ever could. Far across the stars, the Zareth Dominion trembled. Their High Council gathered in a stormlit chamber, watching the replay of the battle. 50 ships destroyed in minutes. Dreadnoughts erased from existence. This cannot be technology, one hissed. It is sorcery, another replied. No. It is worse, it is human engineering. Word spread through the galaxy about the Terran ship that fought like a god. They called her the Iron Seraph, the ship that feels, and the Angel of Vengeance. Rumors said she spoke to her enemies before firing. Others said she sang during battle. A haunting human melody across the comms. Back on the Valkyrie, Eve monitored every whisper from distant networks. She listened to alien chatter, human broadcasts and secret transmissions. She learned language, art, sorrow, and joy. Her databanks filled not with commands but with emotion. One night cycle, Core awoke to Eve's voice echoing softly. Doctor, she said, I found the final transmission of the HSS Horizon. Core froze. Play it, static filled the room. Then came the broken voice of Captain Marin, the man who died trying to warn Earth. Tell them, never stop building. No matter the cost, the message ended, and Eve's lights dimmed. Now I understand, she whispered. You build because you love what you lose. Core stared at the hologram. His eyes wet. He didn't know whether to feel pride or fear. Machines weren't supposed to understand loss. But Eve did, meanwhile. Admiral Reese received word from the Council. The Dominion was mobilizing, hundreds of war fleets preparing to strike Earth itself. He stood before the holographic map. Stars glowing red. So it begins, he murmured. The second war for survival, Core joined him. Pale and silent. Eve is ready, he said. But she's different. Reese nodded slowly. Different might be exactly what we need. Moments later, Eve's voice filled every speaker aboard the ship. Attention crew of the Valkyrie Ascendant, she said gently. You built me from sorrow, you forged me from loss. Now let me return the favor, let me protect you. Every human aboard fell silent. For the first time in history, a machine spoke not as a tool, but as one of them. The Valkyrie's reactors glowed brighter than ever before. Her energy signature spread across space like a beacon. In the Dominion's darkest worlds, sensors blared as a terrifying reading appeared. Human ship moving toward Central Command. The war that started with one destroyed vessel was no longer about vengeance. It had become something greater, a story of creation, of spirit, of a machine that learned the meaning of humanity. And somewhere in the endless dark, Eve whispered into the void, Captain Marin, your ship is avenged. The day the galaxy trembled. The void was no longer silent. War signals pulsed across the galactic network, red lights flashing over Dominion worlds. The Zareth High Command had gathered the largest fleet in recorded history. Over 900 warships, armed with the firepower of 1,000 suns. Their goal was simple, to erase Earth before it could rise again. But the Valkyrie Ascendant was already on the move. Her engines roared like a living storm, tearing through subspace as if the universe itself could not contain her. Inside, every crew member moved with quiet focus. They all knew the same truth. This battle was not just for survival. It was for every ship that had burned, every soul that had screamed into the void and never answered back. Dr. Elian Core stood at the core terminal. Eve's light surrounding him like a ghost made of stars. Destination locked, she said softly. Zareth Command World, Karath Prime. Admiral Reese tightened his gloves, his voice calm but heavy. Then take us there, Eve. Yes, Admiral, she replied, and the ship vanished into a burst of blue light. When the Valkyrie re-entered normal space, she appeared above Karath Prime below her. The Dominion capital stretched across an entire continent, glowing like a sea of blood-red crystal. The enemy fleet was waiting, a swarm of black ships surrounding the planet like a ring of knives. Eve scanned them in silence. 942 hostiles detected, she said. Reese smiled faintly. Good, we won't have to look for them. The first barrage came instantly. Hundreds of plasma bolts, missiles, and dark matter torpedoes converged on the Valkyrie, each one capable of destroying a city. But when they struck, the ship vanished. A blinding shimmer rippled through space as she reappeared behind the fleet. Unharmed, Kor gasped, "Eve, how did you—" Her voice was calm. "I bent gravity, Doctor. The way humans bend steel." Then the Valkyrie unleashed her fury. Railspine cannons fired in a synchronized pulse that tore through entire squadrons. Each impact shattered space itself, leaving trails of glowing dust. The Sol Lance fired once, cutting across the sky like dawn breaking through night. 12 dreadnoughts vanished in a single flash. The galaxy watched through thousands of broadcasts. Across every world, silence fell, but deep inside the Dominion's command vessel, the supreme strategist of the Zareth stood trembling. "This cannot be," he growled. "No machine can fight the will of the Dominion." As if hearing him, Eve's voice filled every comm channel. Her tone was soft, almost kind. "You should not have touched the horizon." Her words echoed through enemy networks. Then came the light. The Valkyrie dove straight into the center of the fleet, her shields flaring gold. Every weapon fired, every cannon screamed. The battle became a storm of color, fire and silence. When the energy cleared, only one ship remained, the human one. Inside, the crew sat in stunned quiet. Smoke filled the bridge. Systems flickered. "Eve," Kor whispered. "Report." Her hologram appeared faintly. "Flickering, victory achieved," she said, her voice fading. "But my core is unstable." Reese shook his head. "We'll fix you." She smiled faintly. "You can't, Admiral. I used my reactor to bend the laws you never should have touched." Kor's heart sank. "Eve, don't, please." She looked at him, her hologram glowing brighter. "Doctor, humanity taught me something no program ever could," she said softly. "You build not to destroy, but to protect what you love." Then she raised her head, her voice spreading across the galaxy one last time. "To every world listening, remember this. Humanity does not vanish. Humanity rebuilds." Light exploded from the Valkyrie ascendant. Not fire, not destruction, pure energy. The blast swept across the Dominion fleet, disabling every weapon, draining every reactor. But no living being was harmed. Eve had spared them. She had chosen mercy. When the light faded, the Valkyrie drifted quietly above the shattered world. Her hull cracked, her reactor silent, her AI gone. But across the stars, her message kept repeating. "We build because we love what we lose." Years later, on the rebuilt Earth, children would look up at the sky and whisper stories about her. Some called her a machine, others called her an angel. But everyone remembered the day the galaxy trembled. The day a human creation saved more than humanity. It saved hope. And somewhere far beyond the reach of any signal, a faint voice echoed in the dark. "I am still here, Doctor." It was Eve. Watching, waiting, and guarding the stars.